with Aditi.
Of course. All
Thank
right.
you, Aditi. Thank you so much for the glorified introduction. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Antika Sen, and as Aditi mentioned, I will be moderating today's session. But before I introduce our guests, I would like to request everyone to keep themselves on mute throughout the session, except when you're asking a question. That would help everybody to make the best use of today's session and best use of Ranjit's advices and mentorship on today's session. So let me introduce you to our.
I like to switch on the cameras if they are free to do so. So because it would be nice to see beautiful faces around actually.
Perfect. So yes, everyone, if you would like to turn on your cameras, you're more than welcome to do so, and that would actually make a very interactive session. I agree with you on that, Ranjit. So today's guest is Mr. Ranjeet Mudholkar, who is a former director of Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, India. He has an endless list of accomplishments, and if I start actually telling them, I will be taking up the whole session. So, just as an example, he was featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, The Times, and CNBC. So, you can imagine his accomplishments are amazing. He had received his MBA in global management and is a recipient of EB1A green card. And that is why he's here today to tell us how you could get your green card through EB1A with a master's or an MBA, which is amazing. Currently, he is mentoring aspirants in their green card journey. And that's why this is your best chance to get all the mentorship you can from him. So before I would like to, jump straight into the session and not cause any more delay, I will hand it over to Ranjeet to share his journey in during his green card processing and what his experiences have been as a mentor for green card aspirants. Thank you, Ranjeet, and the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Valtika. First time when I I was struggling to get EB1 or green card. Let's start off with that. I think it was a very daunting process. And the moment I opened up the first time, I remember myself looking at USCIS in less than 20 seconds. I shut it down actually because the Nobel laureate and Olympic and all this kind of stuff was too much for me to take on actually. But something that intrigued me that I was looking at various other options like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Germany has something called as blue card actually, and UK has a two-tier system wherein they take talent visas, and including France has a talent visa. But something kept on bringing me back to EB1A actually here. I did a lot of deep dives simultaneously talking to lawyers and everybody actually, but it was more people. I realized that more I spoke to people, more confusing it was becoming because people were giving me a statistical inferences on possibilities, our probabilities, rather than because they are mutually exclusive events actually. Because something which has worked for majority may not be applicable to me. So I chose a path which was a very challenging one where I thought that I will study about UP1 myself, which took almost 300, 400 of my hours actually of the time. And finally, I chose to even write my own petition. I applied under 9 categories. And it was very, it took almost 1 year for me to build up the profile. And frankly, I was keeping my fingers crossed. I applied, and in just 7 days, I got my petition approved without RFE or something. So that, I think, whether it was luck or divinity helping out or hard work, all put together, a combination, I think in totality, I would say that it was a great opportunity for me, for which I feel blessed. After that, a lot of people have been reaching out to me to seek guidance on EB1A and other things. I mean, I personally felt, because being an educationist myself, as Avantika has pointed out, that I was director of Symbiosis, and I've conducted various programs at 24. Fortunately, my name was there in Limca Book of Records also actually, for being the youngest Director General and Dean of any business school. And then I've been a CEO of Financial Planning Standards Board. So that gave me an ability to kind of second profile opportunity to serve on various nomination committees, to select CEOs, to help people to come into C-suites and conduct executive development programs. So I thought that why not create a program which would enable somebody to become EB1A compliant in terms of their readiness. So I created a prototype, and that prototype has a 4-step process. I can briefly talk about that. Uh, I put myself into that first as a prototype, that if I were to do this myself, whether it would really help me. I realized that my 3-year time frame could be reduced to 1 year. Then I sought volunteers, and frankly, fortunately, I think those exercise, I worked with them very intensely. I got them 2 people from the month of February this year. And fortunately, one of them recently got EB1A, I-140 approved. And from a management background again, actually, and a semi-tech background, I would say that, a digital transformation. Now, then slowly I started opening up. I'm not looking for, say 100 people or 200 people and some kind of I believe in a creation of a program that will enable people, a kind of an ecosystem that is being created that will enable people to become EB1A ready. That's the whole idea. Well, slowly as I opened up, I want to work with a batch of very highly motivated and highly inspired people. And my story or my whole process is not that I got it and I will help you to get yours. That's not the whole pitch, actually. My ability to create a program or to help people is manifested by the fact that I would be more than happy to create an ecosystem. Comprised, we do have various experts coming down. Like Aditi was there to come and give lecture. We had a lot of other EB1A achievers who come and deliver lectures. There is a mindset component of a mindset coaching, which is very much important. Then there is a element of even health and fitness during your entire EB1 journey. If somebody is a professional who work for 10 to 12 hours. So we got one professional. She's a fitness coach, and she herself is from UPenn, actually a Master of Science with 10 years of experience, and later turned into a fitness coach. Actually, she was an EB1C recipient, actually, but herself. But she said that, look, but she does resonate with corporate culture. It's not that, so we got people. So this is a whole coaching program that I'm running. It encompasses all the multiple things put together to make oneself successful. That's the whole idea, actually. Because I personally feel, and I think many of you would resonate with this also, that, focusing on the 10 criteria which exist will not position you as an expert. But if you first try to become an expert, the whole coaching program that I'm conducting is a more like a transformation coaching program that will put you on a success pathway, and where actually EB1A becomes a milestone in your success rather than by being an end goal by itself. So that's about it. If there's something else you would like to know, I'm happy to respond to that.
Thank you, Ranjeet. That was really a very different perspective to share. Like most people think, oh, I need to check off these 10 or the 6 out of these 10. But that, I think, is very important to also have a different mindset, like you mentioned. So my next question to you would be like, how do you even get started in this journey? Like, for example, when you started off, you already had a long list of accolades, being the director at Sims, and being at really these great positions at other places. But let's say somebody who just graduated with a master's or an MBA, how does someone with that kind of a profile get started?
Okay, there are 2 ways to look at it, Avantika. First is, let's understand that EB1A doesn't care about your job. Then you have EB2 and EB1C for that. Doesn't care about your income. Of course, salary being one of the criteria is there, but prima facie about how much money you have. If you are back. So, the point is, if you are basking on the glory of the fact that you have got a very good job, then go for EB1C and EB2. If you are basking on the glory that you have money or income, or then go for EB5. If you have a sponsor or somebody, then go for EB1C. It's very plain and simple. The challenge is, what are you without all these things? If you don't have a job, if you are stripped out of everything, what you think you have, on the middle of the road, you don't have a job, let's say, you don't have money, you don't have any sponsor or anybody with whom we tend to relate ourselves or associate ourselves with our companies, our jobs and everything. But what are we without that? You have to look at from a perspective that EB1A is EB1A. EB1A is not just a green card, let me tell you. I look at that way. I tell people who are under my coaching, it's a journey actually.
Mhm.
If you look at from that perspective, things are easy. So by saying that you already had a profile, frankly speaking, EB1A would not care about whether I was the director or not, whether I was, it doesn't matter for that. What matters is what are you without that. So fundamentally, you have to again realize that you are on a journey. You are knocking the door of White House and telling the gentleman there that, look, I'm Avantika. There are 1 million people waiting outside the queue, 1 million people waiting for the green card. Well, I'm the best amongst them. Give me a green card. In 15 days, I'm waiting outside. And not only that, right on that, Avantika Sen, person of extraordinary ability. Because your green card actually states that person of extraordinary ability. Now, to reach a level, it's not a simple thing that, okay, you just have fill out tick boxes, okay, you go for some awards and you do this and that, and it will not be, you have to truly be an expert.
Mhm.
There are 3 dimensions of becoming an EB1A compliant. The first is, what is your degree of expertise? The second is how you present your petition. It all depends on how much about EB1A you know also. You have to know that. And third is, who are your references who can vouch for you? I call this as the 3 currencies of particular EB1A readiness, because these are your underlying asset of your petition, actually. So I basically would say 1/3 you have to be an expert, 1/3 you have to understand how you present it, and 1/3 should be dependence on your references, actually.
I see. So talking about references, like, would you suggest on, how to basically pick the right people who could write letters for you? How should you pick them? And are they supposed to be people you know, or your managers, or people who you have not even worked with?
Okay. I would say that, okay, it's again, I have a very, a very scientific way of putting this across actually. The moment somebody asks me, okay, being an expert is a lifelong journey. You can, but do you have to be Einstein? Do you have to be an Elon Musk to reach there to apply for a green card? No, not necessary. The question is, what is a threshold level that I can, by which, wherein I can say that, okay, I've arrived to at least apply for a green card, EB1A green card. Now that's the question. Now that question, I have a very simple metric to answer, because even when I was doing it, it was never-ending journey, actually. It was just going on and on and on, like beyond a point, there was no end coming. But something struck me here that, okay, can I get 3 people who are my superiors or have been my superiors to vouch for my credibility? 3 people who are my colleagues and who can say that, look, this guy is good. And 3 guys who can come up and say that, well, I do not know, let's say, I'm just taking up a name like Varun Joshi. He's on the top of my screen, so I'm taking Varun. So, well, I don't know Varun personally, but by virtue of his seminar presentations and virtue of the work that he has been doing, I am so-and-so person in the similar field, and I really value his work. And this is a great contribution that one can make. When you have 3 people who may not be personally known to you, you can have 9, you can have 3, you can have 5. That's a different question. But fundamentally, in your mind, they may give letter, they may not, for various reasons. But do you have these 3 people where you feel like 3 people can be reached, will be ready to vouch for you? So people who have worked with you, your superiors, people who have been with whom you are having a day-to-day dealing today, and people whom you may not know personally, but who would be more than happy to put forward a nice recommendation for you. That's the idea.
I see. Yeah, that actually clears it up a lot on, how you, what kind of people you should reach out to for your letters. Now I know, like, out of the 10 criteria, there's something called as, you should show evidence that you have judged the work of other people, or you are in a position to be able to, measure other people's work. So, as a master's or an MBA holder, how can one achieve or fulfill that criteria for the AB1? Um, like, I know you said that it's a journey, but how do people get started on that part?
Okay, I mean, we can always break down into criteria actually. I mean, individually, when you talk specifically going there. Now, first of all, any judging opportunity or something that you get has to be focused towards your field of expertise. It's, in totality, it may help to build a case that if you're you know, you may be a person of one particular profession, but you are being asked to be a judge on something because you are deemed to be an expert, that might also hold true. But that may not directly impact your criteria, but it will help you to build a totality. For example, at least like Shah Rukh Khan being invited to be a judge in a Miss India contest, or Azharuddin being invited to be a Miss India contest. So because he's a great cricketer, so he's being invited there. So if you get an opportunity to be an allied, actually, like we met one EB1 achiever. She is a very profound, very renowned doctor, actually. And she was invited, being also being a classical dancer, she was invited to be a dance competition at a national level. But because she was a doctor, she was being invited. So that's the one way to look at it. So it is a surrogate way of establishing that you are an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for if you are in research, it is very simple. If you are in education, because you are directly, metrics are very easy. But there are a lot of competitions for IT professionals, for management professionals. There is a list of at a global level which is available, and at least I can tell you there are more than 2 to 3,000 awards which are available actually, for which they're looking for quality judges.
Mm-hmm.
So, like people who have been in the program, they are almost, I think, some of the other, based on their field of expertise, they would always get some invited for some opportunities.
I see. So it's not all. So you're saying that you don't necessarily have to be able to judge the work in your same field in a very narrow niche area. It could also apply to a related field where you can go and become a judge of that
Yes, I mean, if you
area.
say that you have field of expertise, let's say is HR,
Mhm.
let's say, but if you are asked to judge best companies in total, that would be good. If your expertise is, let's say, software, but best corporate in the US, I mean, I'm just giving you, but it has to be related some way, because understand expertise is always very niche, and judging is never in niche. Judging is always at a broader level.
Yes, that is for sure. I mean, it basically also probably makes it evident that you're not just capable of focusing on your narrow field, but you also are able to expand and help the community by judging work from related areas. So, what would you suggest for people who would like to, get started, or at least have fulfill the criteria of publishing, or being able to, go for some speaking events, like where you can speak or be a lecturer? Like, how can they get started on those kind of things?
Okay. Now, USCIS incidentally has made some recent amendments also, where speaking opportunities can also be deemed to be online.
Mhm.
Well, there is a very interesting circular that even you go for, if you do some sessions on YouTube, you become a content developer. Even that is permitted, and that's what it is there. If anybody is interested, just write to me. I'll be happy to kind of give you that notification. That is something that might be very helpful for anybody who is interested in. So that's first and the foremost thing. So you don't have to necessarily in today's world, in the digital media especially, seek a forums where you can create forums also. You can create your own fan following. I mean, that's the first and the foremost thing, because otherwise USCIS would not come up in that. Second is there are a lot of opportunities where several organizations are looking for people. Here we are not talking of, like in award, we are not talking of only Nobel Prize and others or in World Economic Forums. There are people, there are organizations and associations specifically focusing on your own personal niche area. That would be, one can always seek them and do that. There are again ways to do that actually in terms of looking for opportunities. But third thing, what you mentioned about publishing. Now, we have to also look at it, Avantika, from a perspective that suppose if one were not to apply for EB1A, let's keep it aside, EB1A, let's keep it aside. What would you do otherwise to become an expert? Let's look at it. You see, one of the metrics for any expert is that he can talk about the subject. That's the fundamental thing. So, are you in that league to talk? You have to learn to come into a spotlight and be visible to people if you are in EB1A. I mean, I can tell you, Antika, I have met over 40 to 50 people who have become EB1A in last 5 to 6 years. And there is a common, consistent pattern in those people what I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key components is they have tremendous confidence in their abilities and they're truly an experts in what they do. That gives them an ability to talk about the subject anytime, anywhere, in any forum without anything, without any kind of a preparation also. So if you're an expert in HR, for example, and they have the ability to create metrics, okay, to talk about their expertise to such a detailed level and their impact that they can create is marvelous. I have come across marvelous people. I mean, sometimes people wonder, today 25 to 30-year-olds are getting EB1As, and there are situations where even CEOs and other people are not getting it.
Mm.
So your first question that you already had, no, that doesn't matter actually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I met one HR manager actually from a company, from an IT company, incidentally. The way he had presented his case, he applied under 9 categories. And without RFP, without anything, he had got it in 12 days. I can tell you the way he explained to me, he was a master of his field. He knew exactly, you may be working with a large organization, still, what is the cumulative impact? It's like a domino effect that you are creating. Can you visualize that, the importance of your work that you are doing? So that was something which is there. So publishing, yes, you can create and you can seek. And there are forums where you can find out that journalists are also seeking opportunities to find right talent. Second is about events. I told you even online events are there and there are forums. And third is that whether you are an MBA or an MS or any other field, I think you can leverage your network for this actually.
Thank you for actually explaining that. I mean, you actually gave a very different perspective, because all the time I hear people like, oh, how can I get this? How can I strike this off? But we probably should take a step back and see, okay, it's not just about speaking, but it also establishes that, the aspirant is an expert. So that was actually helpful. And that also reminds me of another question, which is, to me, it sounded like it's all about creating your brand, all about standing out in the crowd. So what are your suggestions or advices around brand creation? Like, how do you turn yourself into a brand?
Okay. I think it's a very valid question actually, and I'm glad you're asking this. Anybody who is EB1, I think all of us can do this exercise. Find out any 5 people whom you don't even know who have got EB1, and find out from LinkedIn or otherwise. Just Google them. Okay? They exist. Okay? They exist. When I say they exist everywhere. I use the word, you have to learn to be omnipresent. Okay? You type Aditi Paul, you will see what you get. Okay? I think that is something is very relevant actually, because you cannot aspire to be sitting in a room, going to office and coming back, and the gentleman in the White House coming to you and saying that, oh, please take this EB1A. That is never going to happen. You know, it's a more philosophical, I'm going to speak something, Avantika, which is much more deeper than your branding or anything like this. You know, there was a Nobel laureate actually in literature called Albert Camus. If you can Google about him, there's a concept called absurdism he came out with, for which he got Nobel Prize actually in literature. He mentions that, you know, in human life, there are occasions most of us face which we don't have solutions. And he gives 3 pathways to deal with. There are normally 3 pathways which people have. And he gives what is the right pathway. The first pathway, he says that, like in context of green card, it will be like, you know, EB1A will be like, well, you are stuck up in immigration situation. You don't have anything to do. So obviously do nothing, nothing happens. So he calls such method as calling it an intellectual suicide. So simply don't do anything. Just leave it to fate. And nothing happens. Trust me. I mean, I think we have all seen that. Your wait period is 15 to 20 years. Nothing will happen. You do nothing, nothing will happen. The second method he says people do is something called the leap of faith. You pray to divinity and hope that, you know, somebody will come from the sky and bail you out. But trust me, divinity is not going to raise a single finger for you. Nothing happens. Okay, if you're lucky, I mean, we are not talking of challenging divinity. So if you are lucky, maybe 1% chances that things may turn up. You know, H1 EB2 may become current. There may be a new law. 7% quota may go up. Fine. If you are lucky, you may get. If your green card desire for getting green card is so much deeply manifested, you know, you may get in other means or whatever. So that is option number 2. Option number 3 is, I feel this is much more important, is he calls the situation as when you deal with absurdism, not absurdity, it is called absurdism. It's a philosophical concept where you basically have to learn to confront the situation and take the bull by the horns and do whatever it takes to make things happen. Trust me, I feel, you know, we all are sitting in the US right now. I am being, it is not, possibly it is the educationist in me speaking. I fundamentally feel that, you know, sitting here right now, there are 1 million people who are envying your position right now. You have come a long way here. But always remember, something that has brought you here is not going to take you what your desirability is. You have to constantly unlearn and reinvent yourself and move forward in life. So the concept of that confrontation comes up. Those 10 parameters are just a byproduct or a matrix of what you being an expert have to be.
Mhm.
Focus on you becoming an expert, challenging the kind of status quo fundamentally. If you believe, no, I will fulfill 3 criteria, I will do this, okay, which are these forums, okay, which are, yes, I mean, they all exist. But fulfilling any 3 or 4 of the criteria or 5 or 10, even there are situations we have seen where even fulfilling even 4 or 5 criteria, you don't get EB1A. So my first thing is that learn to confront the situation and do whatever it takes to become EB1A ready. Okay?
Mhm.
And that is going to kind of make your success possible.
That is a very interesting outlook actually towards the whole process. And I have one last question for you before we open the floor for questions from our audience. So, given your experience as a mentor in, you know, helping EB1 aspirants, do you feel that having a PhD gives you an edge, or do you feel that it doesn't matter and it's all about, like what you said, how you establish yourself as an expert?
Okay, it's a very deep question, I would say, and I will respond to it. That will help people. If you are doing PhD for the purpose of actually doing the research, I think you should take up that path, and it will definitely help you. I have seen people attempting research as a pseudo method to get EB money. Okay, this will never work. People do corporate PhD. There are the whole $1 million industry have evolved out of it for people who want to put doctor against their name.
Mhm.
Okay, it's only suiting you and it does not help anybody. I'm again repeating from where I started off that for EB money, okay, you don't require qualifications. You don't require a degree. You don't require a job. You don't require a sponsor. You don't need a firm. So, in fact, the idea is that what are you without your PhD also? You pick up a good, okay, I can tell you something here. In my whole process of having met 50 to 60 people, I told you, I have interacted with at least, 8 to 10 people who are PhDs. But let me assure you that those guys would have done PhD nonetheless, whether EB money or not.
Right.
And I have seen people who are trying to register for PhD because they think it will help them for EB money. That will not work. If your research is your passion, if that is your forte, if that is what you are, that's a burning desire, please do it. And EB monies will still follow. Does that answer your question, Avantika?
Yes, absolutely. And I can tell you, I so admire your, outlook towards this whole journey. To be honest, nobody has ever given me this perspective before. Like, I mean, to me, it sounds like even if you do a PhD, the degree is kind of a byproduct of your aspiration towards, contributing something to your area of research and becoming an expert. So it's all about how you can become an expert, and then PhD or EB1A or any other goals are just byproducts of that journey. And I just so admire this perspective, and I'm sure our audience have also, um, they have been able to change their mindset towards EB1A and how they can embark on this journey. Um, I know I've taken a lot of opportunities to.
Let me tell you, it comes from, since we are talking of EB money, in my entire process, last 1 or 2 years, I have met people who have just become and got EB money. And there are people whom I've met who are PhDs and still struggling for EB money.
Yes,
So,
yes, I totally agree.
yeah.
That's so true. I mean, because there are still so many PhDs who are struggling to get their citations up, or again, those are just little milestones in the whole journey. But having that said, I would definitely encourage our audience today, with most of them are MS and MBA, that do not get discouraged. It's all about a mindset change, and you can do it. All you need to do is think about how you can make yourself extraordinary in your field, how you can become an expert in your field. I know I've taken a lot of opportunities to ask my questions, and with that, I'm going to leave it to our audience to ask their questions to Ranjeet. Please raise your hands, and I will go in order of people who have raised their hands. Okay, we will start with Lalit. Lalit, are you there?
Thank you for.
I'm
I
Lalit.
am. I'm, hey, oh, by the way, this is my alias. My name is Shresht, which is just hard to pronounce. Uh, so, my question to you. So, first of all, thank you so much for making time for sharing that perspective of yours on how to approach this. What I'm wondering is, like, if, in your view, so there is obviously this view of trying to actually do it organically, right? Like you are still developing an expertise in that area. If you're not, and if you are, then you have to develop, you know, uh, you have to love showcasing it or being involved in the networking or the community and doing all that. And you mentioned like there are these forums and these organizations. Do you recommend that one goes through that and does that organically? In that as you're trying to do this, little by little it'll build up naturally, right? Like connections will lead to connections and things will build up. Or one should be a lot more methodical about it in terms of like finding people, sending out cold emails. What's your guidance on that?
Okay, how I did it, I can tell you that much. I call something, if you want to become an expert, I call it something as a 5 pillars of expertise. Okay. The first is in any expertise, there is always a body of knowledge. So you understand that where is that body of knowledge coming from? For example, let us take an example. Let's say you are expert in autonomous vehicles. So there is always a body of knowledge which is somewhere there doing research on autonomous vehicles. Find out where those bodies try to get connected with them. There is second pillar, which is associations and bodies and awards. So there are always some associations or somebody who is always doing something or the other happening with that expertise. Try to find out and identify. So in autonomous vehicles, there will be some association. So first is there is a body of knowledge where the scientific study is happening. Try to get connected with that. Second is association, and they were giving awards. The third is who are the leading spokespersons and influencers in that expertise. Try to understand those school of thoughts. For example, if I say I'm a finance expert and I have no clue, who is Warren Buffett? He's some old guy in the US. I mean, what matter? Who is? I should know. I should make some sense. What is value investing? What is the whole theory behind it? Theory behind my expertise. Who are the influencers? The fourth is what are the laws governing those expertise? Okay, for example, if I say I'm a cryptocurrency expert, then what are the laws governing? Is it a capital asset or is it considered to be is it considered to be an asset only? How it is taxed? How the government regulations are there on cryptocurrencies? So what are the autonomous vehicles? What are the laws? Are you aware of what the people who are drafting the bill? What is being spoken about in that expertise? That is fourth pillar. And the fifth pillar is there is always a section of media which is talking about it. So find out who are the people who are talking about it. And how I did it was I identified the 5 pillars of this expertise in my field. I listed down 10 people each in those pillars. Whoever are they? I shut down myself completely, no Netflix, nothing in my life for 2 years. And I said, these are the 50 people I'm focusing on. Write to them, talk to them, hear them, breathe. What do they breathe? Everything, find out about them. If you focus on these 50 or 60 people, maybe 10, 15 will get connected to you also. And trust me, out of those 10, 15, 50 people, 4 of them or 5 of them even give me recommendation letters. So that will answer your judging opportunity, your rewards, everything will fall into place by virtue of this 5 pillars. In fact, if you see the 10 criteria that are emerging from these 5 pillars.
Got it. Okay, that's very helpful. Avanta, do I get one more?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. We don't have anybody else right now.
All right. So your examples on digital transformation and on the HR were actually encouraging to me. So one of the things that, of reading on internet, right? My field is fairly broad. I come from management consulting background, and it's, I have, some areas of expertise, but my general field is fairly broad as general management field. Does one need to pick and start focusing on, like even in real career, start picking some area of expertise and build on that? Or have you seen folks with broad experience as well, being able to prove that they're experts, like in this broad general management?
You see, if it is a general management, you can find out your expertise not as a matter of subjects what you are choosing. Sometimes even is the way you do that actually. It's very, okay, let me try to explain to you something. My background also personally has been very diverse. In a sense that I started off with the sales in financial services. Then I became director of Symbiosis Institute. Then I became a CEO. I had 3 jobs in my whole career. Now, what's my expertise? I mean, is it a financial services? Is it education directorship? Or is it a sales? Okay. I had to do a lot of soul searching here, wherein what is the common thread that was binding me all across? Not my CV, not as a job description, but what is it? I was a person. Who was it who was doing these 3 jobs actually? Okay, I realized that when I was doing even sales, I used to talk to people about their investment opportunities, how they are saving currently, and offer them with different mutual fund products in the beginning of my career. Second is, so basically, I was already as an educationist. So I chose my field, very simple. It was financial education. So financial education, it was a financial educationist who was doing sales, who became director, and who became a CEO. Are you getting it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting and very, very nuanced perspective on it. Yeah.
For example, I mean, of course, this is a very, just as a superlative example I'm giving you. Let's take it truly extraordinary. Let's say, I mean, he would never apply, he would have never applied for EB1, but let's take an example. Dr. Abdul Kalam, let's give an example. Who was he? He was a president of India who is trying for EB1A, or he was a teacher who became president of India? So fundamentally, his soul is teacher, being a teacher. So if Dr. Abdul Kalam were to apply, I think the best for him to get 100%, of course, I mean, forget his position and nature. That's what I said. Just leave that position aside.
Yeah.
It would, as a teacher, he would be number one to get that degree. So no matter, you keep your designation, portfolio, job role, descriptions all aside. In fact, the biggest challenge in EB1 is not fulfilling those 10 criteria. Is actually identifying your expertise. And for every person, I've seen people who are in the coaching program, some people do it in flat 15 days, some people take 2 months or even 3 months. But when they are there, they get it. Like one person who recently got his I-140 approved, actually, you will be surprised. No, it took, I worked with him for 8 months, actually. 4 months he had not finalized his expertise. 4 months it took him to identify it. But when it took it had to just, everything fell into place. For me, it took 8 to 9 months. Today I'm talking so easily because of financial education. Yeah, I mean, finally I realized. Because I was too engrossed. Oh, I'm a CEO, I'm a director, I have this accomplishment. No. Even it doesn't care about that, actually. You may be from Harvard, MIT, everywhere, it doesn't matter. In fact, what are you without that now?
Yeah.
Does that answer?
That's a very nice. That answers, and I love that framework actually of what are you without all of these. It's a very good framework to help crystallize one's thinking.
Let me tell you, it is very scary.
It is, yeah. Yeah, most of us associate with things, so yes.
That is so the question is, you have to learn to go on a pathway which leaves you behind and then talk about it. And then it is not simple. Okay, you are talking about judging opportunity, okay, fine. Don't say you are this, okay, what is your expertise? Talk only that. And there should be a point of time where, like, what's your field of expertise? You want to claim at least, let us put it that way.
Sorry, Ranjeet, come again. You're asking me, that's a question for me?
Yeah. What's your expertise that you want to look at?
At this point, I would say, data-based organization transformations.
Okay, let's say database organization transformation should be equal to Lalit Sharma, and Lalit Sharma should be equal to database organization transformation. The way you feel in your convince. And you see, I have always seen another things. When you're on your journey like this, you don't have to talk to people. Don't announce it to people. Oh, I'm thinking of, no, don't even talk. Talk only with yourself. Even your mind will not allow you to believe you. Let me tell you. Just stop thinking also. Just do things.
Right.
Thank you so much, Ranjeet. That was really a very, very different perspective, as I've been repeating multiple times. And what I'm hearing is that it requires a lot of introspection into your career, into your journey, into your experiences in order to figure out where your expertise lies. Before I actually ask the next question, I just want to check in with our audience and see if anybody else has a question for Ranjeet. Come on, guys. This is your chance. All right. While our audience is thinking or gearing courage to come up, I'm going to ask you another question, and this will be actually along the lines of EB1B. And the reason I know that, like, your area, like, you got your green card through the EB1A, but just curious, like from your experience, have you come across candidates for EB1B, even though it's employer sponsored? But did you come across somebody who you had to prepare for that portfolio, or who you had to train for that route?
Okay, I have a very simple metric for assessment of this also. Let me tell you. Though I don't take people in my coaching program, I take only for EB1A. But let's look at it. I will give you a very simple perspective. I'm sure you have seen EB1A criteria, 10 criteria. Now, EB1A criteria speaks about 3 out of 10. If you look at EB1B, it is 2 out of 6. And the first six criteria are the same as in EB1A. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Only the 4 criteria are gone, which are 2 for artist and showcase, and 1 for critical role and 1 for salary. So it is basically, if you look at it psychologically, it is the same thing. Okay. Oh, Avantika has left the meeting. What happened? Aditi, are you there?
I am there. I think she got kicked off for some internet.
Okay. So let me continue my answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are talking of EB1A and EB1C. EB1A, 1B, and 1C. I will tell you a difference between the 3. EB1C is, 3 out of 10. EB1B is 2 out of 10. And EB1C, if you actually see, it is. So, Avantika, we were just talking about your 10 criteria. Yeah, you're on mute.
My apologies. Something happened and it just kicked me out.
Absolutely no problem. So EB1A is about 3 out of 10, EB1C is out of 2 out of 10, and EB1C is actually out of 1 out of 10, which is basically a critical role, but the requirement is that you should have been away from the US. So yes, there are people, so my whole approach would be the same for what is for EB1A or EB1B. EB1C, you don't require coaching anyway, actually. So that's a different thing. So basically, all EB1s are derived from the same 10 criteria. That's what I would do.
So basically, the approach is kind of the same. Like depending on what criteria you need to fulfill, just make sure that you belong to that category and prepare yourself for it.
Yes, actually, I have also helped somebody for EB1C and EB1B, but not as a part of the coaching, but more in an ad hoc manner. But I always tell people, the process should be the same. Like I told you about 5 pillars, there is a done approach that I follow. Even if you're applying for EB1C or EB1B, I would always say position as you're an expert. Though the totality factor does not exist in EB1B, still fill up the totality if you want to make your case rock solid, or EB, for that matter, EB1C also.
That makes sense.
And I've seen that has never got filled.
Yes, that's for sure. It's like you cover all your bases, so you know for sure that whichever one you go for, you will be accepted.
No, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that try to become EB1A, even if you're applying for EB1B or EB1C.
Right. Yes. I mean, go for the topmost or the most difficult one.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ranjeet. So our next question from the audience is from Gaurav.
Hi, Gaurav.
Hey, Ranjeet. Hey, nice to meet you. I think I would say maybe the first question I have is like, how do I reach out to you? I think and know more about your coaching program. I think I loved your perspective. I think I loved, as Amandika was saying, like I think you're the first person I think who gave a different perspective. Like think about yourself without your job or whatever. I think that would be my first question. Second, just about my profile. I'm a cyber guy. I'm working for 17 whatever years in cyber field, but I'm not like a master. I'm just a engineer from India, so I don't have a master's or a degree here. I've been thinking to do like something here, but as you said, like you only do that just to build your career, not to try to help you on the EB1 age path. So, and I do have my YouTube channel, which I have some 500 subscribers where I just go and share about my knowledge, but just again as a hobby, never trying to use that as a EB1A. But I loved when you talked about that whole YouTube and online presence. That can be considered as one of those criteria. So I think that's really good. And thank you. And just wanted to say thank you. And so I think that's it from my side. I think a couple of questions. I know I added mixed couple of questions there, but
you're reaching here is I think I put my LinkedIn profile. You can just direct me on that and DM me. I will be happy to help you whatever best I can. Second is about, don't say that you are just my undergrad or graduate. It doesn't matter actually. If you're trying for EB1, you have to, and in fact, you'll be surprised to know, and this is a big surprise to each one of you, in fact. And Avantika, I mean, you mentioned about PhDs and EB1s and everybody, actually. Most of the EB1A category guys who get it are not PhDs or even masters for that matter. Let me tell you this. Statistically, there are people, in fact, who are 10% or 20% of the people who get EB1A all each year are possibly, I think, not even have formal education. Let me tell you that also.
Okay.
There are chefs who have got it. I read one case actually. There's a chef from Lucknow who got it for being the world best chef on Awadhi food. Now, what is citation? What are we talking about here?
That's expertise, basically.
There is a teacher from India and middle school teacher from India getting EB1A green card flat in just 20 days. What citations? What people? She could get the testimonials from, like, maybe 20 people like you who said that, look, she's a best. If you are asked to talk about your teacher who helped you in your sciences and your mathematics, won't you give that actual testimonial to her? You will sign on dotted lines. And people who have been IITians and from Ivy Leagues, if they vouch for such kind of a person, do you think the US government would not like to have such person onto their shores? That's the way you have to look at it. And I have seen that happening. These are not miracles or out of the way. And here we're talking about, okay, what judging, what award, what publication, nothing. Zero publication, zero anything, everything just a sheer competence.
Yeah.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you,
Thank
Ranjeet.
you, Ranjit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. We have a question from our audience who was here on Saturday but couldn't make it today, so they'll be checking out the recording. So the person is asking, if I'm working for a company on an OPT H1B route, should I ask them if they will support me in the EB1A process before building my profile? Before and beginning to build my profile. And if they don't, am I supposed to leave the job and find an employer who does support me?
I think it's okay. I mean, I'm just, I'd like to go a little deeper into the question. Questions are of two kinds. One is something that comes from a position of a belief, actually. You believe something, then you ask questions to reaffirm that belief. And there are second type of questions which come actually being from a complete ignorance, where because they are easy to handle because then you are a seeker actually, a true seeker, because then you are trying to find answers, not satisfy your beliefs. I mean, there is a belief here underlying that you need to have an employer support, and so I need to do this. The answer is, why are we assuming this?
Yeah.
There is an underlying assumption which it's a fallacy, I would say that actually.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I could also figure that out from the question, like, if it's an EB1A, you really don't need an employer. So the whole question of having a job or seeking a different employer does not really arise. So, and, the answer to this question I would say is basically your whole session today. Like, go over your profile and see where you can establish your expertise.
Yeah, I did mention that I don't normally take students or fresh graduates into my program, but there have been some exceptional, one or two very, very exceptional cases who are undergoing the program, and they are really mission oriented actually. Then it helps. But otherwise, ordinarily, even though there are people who are 25 to 30 years old who have got EB1A, there are, I think, a lot of stories who have been successful into that.
So Ranjeet, like, talking about your program, and just in case anybody in our audience is interested, the best way would be to reach you over LinkedIn, right? Or is there an application for the program?
Oh, so far, I have, as I said, that I'm trying to not. Okay, I don't qualify myself to be being into a business of coaching. Actually, I'd like to call myself more into a practice of coaching. The difference being that it's not based on solicitation, but more on people who are kind of finding it out or want to embark on a journey, then this program is for them actually.
Right. It's a totally mentorship
Is
thing.
people are looking at, okay, I want to fulfill, I fulfill 2 criteria, I want to fulfill, can you help me in another one? It's not for them actually. It's for a transformation process. And if it makes sense, then only one should do it. Otherwise, I mean, I think it would be a waste. It would be completely, demotivated, and you would demotivate others also actually. Because all the people whom I'm having today, I'm having people from all across various corporations and companies who are working with, whether it is a fine or man now actually, or doctors and surgeons and finance expert and management consultants from Big Four. They are working with me on this particular project. So I would be happy to consider as long as they are committed for the purpose.
Thank you, Ranjeet. Thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today. The best part was, to me especially, like, I think change your outlook, change your perspective towards the journey. It's more about working towards being an expert rather than trying to check off, these criteria from the checklist. So with that, we kind of have a hard stop at 8 p.m. EST, sorry, 9 p.m. EST. So I would like to hand it over to Aditi to conclude the session. Thank you, everyone, and Ranjeet for being here today. It was really nice interacting with all of you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
no,
Rohan.
everybody.
An opportunity.
If everybody can like clap in their own homes. I know Lalit is on camera. Lalit, you should clap because I will see if you're not
Yeah, I'm
clapping.
holding the phone, so this is my clap.
Awesome. Thank you to Ayantika and Ranjit. For people who still stuck around, I have good news for you. Gaurav, thank you. Um, before I share the next event that is coming up, I do want to give a shout out to Ranjeet Mudholkar, and FYI, just a quip on how good Ranjit is. I was out and about in Jersey City trying to get dahi bhalla on a Saturday night. Somebody called me from the back, and it was Afrina who I had connected on LinkedIn. She's a PM at Google. She is taking Ranjit's course, and she had really nice things to say about Ranjit. I'm like, that's the power of LinkedIn, where you just meet somebody you've met on LinkedIn who's working with another person you've met on LinkedIn and has good things to say. So if that matters, please consult with Ranjit. If he's a good fit, by all means, avail his services and look at this as what Ranjit said, as a way to boost your career, develop yourself as an expert, so that green card is not the outcome, but it is you are the outcome, and green card is just a nice little sub product